It'll be interesting to see what the Knicks do. But the Knicks are at a point now where they don't have to blow it up. They may still do so, and they have a right to do so, but with trading the 4 first-round picks and the pick swap for Mikal Bridges, the Knicks don't have a lot of room in regards to actual picks to throw at people.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent the message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face, and after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday Night Monday. Oh, Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Happy Monday for those of you tuning in. Thanks so much for being part of our streaming show here on SportsGrid. We got a lot to cover on today's show as the NBA Finals is knotted up. Stanley Cup Finals is knotted up. Have a feeling we could be headed for 6 or 7 games in both series. Also a fantastic finish yesterday at the French Open. A historic match yesterday with Sinner and Alcaraz. We'll break that down as well. Good guest on the show, Tom Vecchio is going to join us. We'll talk a little baseball, hit on the NBA as well with Coach Young, Gilbert McGregor. Pat Evans is in the house from Legal Sports Report as well to go over the very latest, no doubt. But let's get started. A lot of fun action this weekend in case you missed it. Last night was Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Unfortunately for the Indiana Pacers, didn't go as well as it did in Game 1. A little bit of a laugher here. The Thunder win 123-107, just a blowout in this one. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 34 points. Here's the bottom line. This game was over at the half. It was very evident that the Thunder came to play. The big question from here on out, I know for a lot of people, is this still a possibility for going 6 or 7 games? The Pacers took care of business on the road. But according to the MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it is the old cliche, taking it one game at a time.
You have to stay focused on the task at hand. Now, whatever that may be for your team and how you want to attack them or go about the game plan, but you have to lock in and stay focused. And even tonight, we've had some moments of slippage. Now, you're not going to be perfect out there, but it goes without saying, like, to make it this far into the season, it's going to take supreme level of focus to reach the ultimate goal. And they're a display of that to the highest form. Like, they play a full 48 minutes, and you can't just throw the first punch. You got to try to throw all the punches all night. And yeah, that's what we did. We threw enough punches tonight to get a W.
I thought, Indiana's kind of an acquired taste. We haven't played them a ton. They're not in the West, obviously, and they play a very distinct style on both ends. And I thought there were a lot of things tonight that we were just like a little better in and more comfortable. And that was on both ends of the floor. I just thought the guys did a good job of just improving, which is important going from Game 1 to Game 2.
Meanwhile, the one thing that the Pacers are going to have to figure out is playing better in the first half. It seems like it didn't cost them in Game 1. It absolutely did in Game 2. This according to head coach Rick Carlisle.
Another bad first half. Obviously, it was a big problem. and we just played poorly. A little better in the second half, but you can't be a team that's reactive and expect to be successful or have consistency. So we're going to have to be a lot better on Wednesday.
What were they doing? Anything different than what you saw in the first game?
No, I mean, this is who they are defensively. They got a lot of different guys who can guard the ball, fly around. They're really physical, force the officials to, let us play a little bit more. So just got to do a better job playing through there. I think I've had 2 really poor first halves. So, I just got to figure out how to be better earlier in games. But kudos to them. They're a great defensive team, but, watch the film, see where I can get better.
The all-time classic happened at the French Open yesterday. Not going to ever see a better match than you would have seen yesterday with Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. This was a 5-hour, 32-minute match. It was the longest ever French Open final. And Sinner not only had him on the ropes, but had him at match point in the third set. But Alcaraz came all the way back and then dominated the tiebreaker and went on to win. A lot of people weighing in saying that this was one of the greatest tennis matches of all time. And yeah, it happened yesterday at the French Open. Here's Alcaraz on the win and never giving up hope.
I always repeat myself that in specific moments that I had to go for it. No matter what, no matter if I was down, no matter if I was the super tiebreaker of the fifth, I just thought that it was time to go for it. Not be afraid of the mistakes. And I think today was all about to believe in myself. I never doubted about myself today, and I tried to go for it. That's why I saw my best tennis, in crucial moments, and that's why I saw my best tennis in those difficult situations.
Well, if you were watching the NBA or tennis, you missed out on some good golf yesterday. I don't know how you could have had time to watch it all, but at the Canadian Open, Ryan Fox went into a playoff with Sam Burns, and he ends up winning the title. I mean, this was one of the craziest golf tournaments you're ever going to see. You had 5, 6, 7 golfers going into the final round, all with a chance to win, and then even 4 of them going into the final hour or 2 of the tournament. But needless to say, it is Fox that takes home the championship and talked about winning after his round.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool, Mark, to be fair. Was pretty happy just to get in the playoff there. Obviously, I needed a really good finish to get there, and had some great shots coming down the stretch. And Sam let me off the hook big time there. That first playoff hole, I'd almost given him that, and then we had a couple of scrappy holes there, and then to hit the shot I hit on 18 on that fourth playoff hole was pretty surreal, to be honest. It's probably, actually it will be the best shot I've ever hit in my life. There's nothing close to that. And again, Sam probably let me off the hook making 3 putting there, but I felt like I put the pressure on him with that shot, and it was pretty cool to have a nice little tap in there and be able to soak it all in.
The Stanley Cup Finals returns to sunrise tonight as the Florida Panthers host the Edmonton Oilers in Game 3 of the championship. Right now, Panthers are minus 140 on the money line, total of 6.5. Whoever wins this one tonight is going to be a heavy favorite to win the Cup. We'll see who ends up doing it. We'll have a preview later in the show. Baseball news. Corbin Burns, we found out late Friday, is going to undergo Tommy John surgery, going to miss the remainder of the season and into next year. Diamondbacks right now almost in the cellar, just outside of the Rockies in the West. Could be a tough year moving forward for them. We'll see what they end up doing at the trade deadline. Meanwhile, on Sunday Night Baseball yesterday, Aaron Judge got the party started for the Yankees, and then the party went the Red Sox way from there on out. They hit 5 home runs and win the game by a final of 11-7, so Boston finally gets the win that they needed. Jack Flaherty struck out 9 in 6 scoreless innings. The Tigers beat the Cubs 4-0. Tigers having a fantastic season. Some of the game was overshadowed a little bit by Nico Horner being thrown out of the game, having words with the home plate umpire. Here's Craig Counsell, not happy with that result.
Craig, what was your frustration with Derek Thomas?
The ejection of Nico was completely unwarranted, and there's nothing that was said that warrants an ejection, and you can't eject players and affect outcomes of games for no offense.
Did he give you an explanation as to why he ejected Nico?
Yeah, he didn't like what Nico said, but it's you know, it just Nico's walking by. What he said is not, you know, it's not ejectable, and you don't just eject players and change lineups and things like that.
Can you share what Nico said?
Not ejectable. No swearing, no cussing, walking away, not standing and arguing, nothing. He stands and argues, gives him a warning, fine, nothing.
Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Pirates swept the Philadelphia Phillies over the weekend. Paul Skeens, another impressive pitching matchup. 7 2/3, 1 run. It was unearned. His ERA 1.88 now on the season. Pirates playing good ball. And Manny Machado, speaking of good balls, dialing it back. What a great year he's had. He hits another home run, and the Padres edge the Brewers 1-0. San Diego seems to be playing close games every single night. Last 7 games have been decided by a total of 8 runs. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. Coming up next, Coach James Young is in the house. He expected OKC to rebound in game 2, but what does he expect moving forward in the series? We'll take a quick time out here on the show and hit on the NBA Finals when we return right after this. Don't go away.
Hey sports fans, here's a tip to keep in mind the next time you make your betting picks. According to research, home field advantage is no joke, especially in those playoffs. In the NBA and the NFL postseason, the home team typically has a 64% shot at victory. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling there is no chance they're going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just kidding.
They're still not expected to have over 8.5 wins. They're still not expected to have a winning record. Now, I know things could change for the next 24 hours. I get that. But everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to sign with him. He's going to sign with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent a message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face. And after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday night, Monday. Oh, Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts. 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Game 2 of the NBA Finals goes in the way of Oklahoma City on Sunday night. We'll see now that the series shifts to Indiana. If they still stand a chance, got to win one of these games at home, at least, I would say. Coach Young now joins us to recap Game 2. And, look, I mean, Coach, you pretty much illustrated that this was going to be the way it was probably going to go, and it did. So the Thunder end up winning big, and it was very convincing. And so was there a big takeaway one way or the other for you last night based on the way that they played?
Good to be on with you, Craig, as always. To me, the big takeaway is when Oklahoma City plays 48 minutes, they're by far the superior team. They're more offensively diverse. If you just look at game number 2, Chet Holmgren, who was 2 of 9 from the floor in game number 1, got off to a hot start, 9 points in the first quarter. SGA with 6. Then you put SGA to the bench at the end of the first quarter. Jalen Williams, who didn't score at all in the first, gets you 7 quick points in the second quarter. Then it's the bench play, particularly of Wiggins and Caruso giving you a combined 38 points, which just shows the offensive versatility that a team like OKC has. I know everybody wants to talk about SGA. I mean, he's only, 30 points. I think he's the only guy to have 25 points. He's the only one to have 21 or more points. I think the second highest score in the series in any game was Alex Caruso's 20 points last night. So when you look at what they have in SGA, the shot creativity of Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren playing inside out, you're getting contributions off the bench. Lou Dort gives you 5 threes in the first game. When they're dialed in, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even think they were completely dialed in because it was a very slow, at least first quarter to the end of the first quarter for Oklahoma City. If they play 48 minutes of close up to their best basketball, I don't think Indiana can even touch them in the rest of this series.
Yeah, and that will be really the key. I think game 3 could determine this thing. SGA 34 points, 8 assists, had his way at the free throw line as always, 11 of 12. On the flip side, Tyrese Halliburton, 7 of 13 points, 17.6 assists, 3 rebounds. Did he get as involved as he needed to be, Coach Halliburton? Does he need to do more than this on a nightly basis throughout the finals?
No. Oh, he was Craig, he was terrible. He had 3 points in the first quarter, only had 5 points going into the fourth. It was actually kind of funny. I bet him at halftime to get the 10 plus points. We had 3, and it was almost even money. I think his points was at 10.5 at halftime. So to me, what you did see, Craig, and I think this is what people need to hear, is you did see an adjustment out of Rick Carlisle, particularly in the fourth quarter. He got Tyrese Halliburton the ball on the run, meaning instead of him dribbling the ball up in offense, sitting high ball screen, he had someone else bring the ball up, run some kind of pin down action or dribble handoff action, and get him the ball in on the move. Tyrese Halliburton has never been a burner, right, in regards to his shiftiness and quickness. So when you put bigger defenders like a Lou Dort, if you get someone into him like a Caruso or someone like SGA at 6'6", it's at times a disadvantage for Tyrese standing still. So giving him the ball on the run and making him go on the run when he gets the ball was something I saw a big fourth quarter out of Tyrese, although the game was out of reach. I'm curious to look at, and I am thinking about taking over 4.5 points in the first quarter of game number 3. Maybe Carlisle's unlocked something because they need Tyrese to be better. Plus, the over 4.5 is at plus money right now on FanDuel.
Yeah, very, very interesting dynamic with the way that the series odds have changed. I want to get to that in a second, but let me ask you this. Of Caruso, Williams, Wiggins, and Holmgren, all off the bench, all with actually 3 off the bench, all with double digits, who do you think had the best and biggest impact in this one?
I thought it was Caruso. Caruso was all over the place. I mean, I know Aaron Wiggins hit 5 threes, but Caruso is such a dynamo defensively that anything he gives you, particularly shooting the ball from 3, is an added bonus. So that allows that when you have someone like Lou Dort, who's another great defender who got in foul trouble, only hit 1 3, you can sit Caruso in with the starters, not lose anything with in regards to defensive tenacity, but then the ability to score and move without the ball. This is a guy that was brought in along with Isaiah Hartenstein at the end of last year to give them leadership, to give them toughness, to give them defense. So far, Caruso and Hartenstein, who was starting coming off the bench now, has given Oklahoma City in the first 2 games of the series.
All right, so obviously the Thunder are still big favorites. They've gone from about -4 to now 5-1, basically, essentially 1-5 on your money. You want to bet that, you got to be crazy. If you like Indiana, you can get 4-1. Beyond that, to win by more than a game and a half is -150. So odds makers still saying this could go 6, but OKC wins 4-2. And total amount of games, the over is -194. The under 5.5 is +156. And I would guess that if the Thunder win the next game, Coach, that under 5.5 is going to go away quick.
Yeah, all the odds would move dramatically, Craig, if they were to get game number 3 and seize home court. You also have to realize that Indiana is far better on the road than it has been at home. So to me, this is a critical juncture. Listen, I don't think there's, and I know I was talking about this before with Donnie Rightside on the early line. They're going to win the series. I mean, so if you want to take the minus 560, if you have the money, go put it up and just have them win the series. I also think they're going to get it. And I said 5 games, maybe a little bit of protection, put a little bit more down to get it in 6 or less, meaning taking Oklahoma City minus the 1.5 games. They get it in 6 or 5, you win and you cash out at minus 150. I think this series is over. This is the best shot you have out of Indiana game 3. But if they lose, particularly if they get run, and that's possible with OKC, I don't see this thing how it ever gets back to a game 6 in Indiana.
So, Coach, let's take a look at those odds here. To win in 5, the Thunder are now plus 186. Going into the series, they were less than that. Like, that was the favorite. Win in 5. So you're getting a little bit more than you got a week ago.
Yeah, because that's because of the fact that they got a split in Indiana. So now at this point, it would be a gentleman's sweep to continue and win the next 3 games to do it. I think they're capable of doing it. I think OKC's figured out some things. I don't like the double big lineup, but it's starting to work a little bit, especially Hartenstein with the rebounds. I just don't look at Indiana and say, 1, we have someone that can stop SGA. 2, we have the depth to stay with them. I think the series is in deep, deep trouble.
Coach, great to catch up with you once again. We'll see what happens come next game in Indianapolis. Thanks again.
Thanks, Craig.
Next up, it's the news we've been waiting for months. Finally came down this weekend. Aaron Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Our SportsGrid insider Adam Caplan will join us and answer the question if it really makes a difference for Pittsburgh this season. We'll be right back.
Hey sports fans, here's a tip to keep in mind the next time you make your betting picks. According to research, home field advantage is no joke, especially in those playoffs. In the NBA and the NFL postseason, the home team typically has a 64% shot at victory. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling there is no chance they're going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just kidding.
They're still not expected to have over 8.5 wins. They're still not expected to have a winning record. Now, I know things could change for the next 24 hours. I get that. But everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to sign with him. He's going to sign with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent a message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face. And after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday Night Monday. Oh, Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're joined by our SportsGrid insider, Adam Caplan, talking some National Football League. And the final shoe dropped in the NFL over the weekend, Adam, as Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers. So now we can put all of it to rest and just get ready for training camp next month. But before we do that, let's put the bow on it with you here this morning. Rodgers signs with the Steelers. It's a one-year deal. He'll create some fun, some intrigue, give people like us a lot to talk about. That's all we can ask for. People complain, but he does create news. Beyond that, what kind of impact do you see him having on the season?
Well, here's the thing, a little bit of stability for one season. I give the guy credit. I know he didn't have a good season for the Jets last season, but did have 28 touchdowns. He did play in every game, despite what I'm told were two fairly significant injuries. He had a hamstring strain and a knee sprain, which overlapped each other at some point in the season, Craig, but he never missed a game. And all you could ask for a guy to play through it. He did the best that he could, but he's an older player, Craig. You know this from covering sports for many years. When guys get in their 40s, the bodies break down. His did last season. And at 41 and a half years old, the question is, as we move forward here, what's he have left? Yeah, he did play the full season, and he is going to be at their mini camp this week, which is a mandatory camp for 3 days, and that'll be good to get the timing down with his receivers. Yes, he worked with DK Metcalf earlier this offseason, back in the spring, but he's got to get his timing down. They got to figure this out. But as you move forward here, is the team going to be potentially better? Yeah, with the quarterback. Russell Wilson struggled late last season mightily. Mm-hmm. But they have issues, Craig, at running back. They need to figure out who their feature back's going to be. Number 2 receiver next to Metcalf, that's an issue. Left tackle, Broderick Jones has not played particularly well. Although I can tell you from talking to the Steelers, they feel pretty good about the other 4. They think they're on their way to getting one of the better centers in the National Football League, and Zach Frazier, who was great as a rookie, as a second rounder. They feel pretty good with Trey Fatano coming back from his knee injury. He's going to be the right tackle. But they still have issues. The depth at receiver isn't very good. So you look at their over-under total. So the books, Craig, have them at 8.5. And I know Mike Tomlin, over 18 seasons, has never had a losing season. I get that. But they also have not won a playoff game since 2016. They're 0-5 since then.
Yeah, no, you're looking at the roster offensively. Their defense is always going to be there. And, Watt is the most valuable player to maybe any team in the NFL. You see how well they play when he plays, and when he doesn't, they lose. So they'll play at the Jets like that's some sort of revenge game. I don't see it that way. But obviously the game against the Packers will be a good one when they take on each other. And Rodgers usually plays well against the Bears. But looking at it a little deeper, the one thing that I would say is, look, we all know that Aaron Rodgers is a pretty big public figure at this point. That's fair to say. He goes on all these podcasts, his own stuff. He always creates attention. But the one thing, Adam, that over all of this stuff that I have to say, I think he comes off a little bit as indifferent, like somebody that doesn't care if he plays, if he doesn't. That's a bunch of nonsense, man. This is the only spot he had. It's not a great spot, and he chose to come back and play on it. So the guy definitely can't have the jersey off of him at this point. I think that's fair, or else he would have retired.
Well, look, he knew the situation. Now, he did have, and he's been upfront on it, there was some personal issue that someone in his inner circle was dealing with, and he was away from the Steelers. The Steelers had contact with him for several weeks. They kind of knew where he was at, but he never told them definitely that he was playing. It was that there were indications were that he was leaning towards playing, and they knew they were going to have him if he did play, which they did. So that thing is resolved. Now, Mason Rudolph, we've been talking about for 2 months. There was no way they were going into the season with him as the starter. I don't care what they said. He's going to make about $7 million over the next 2 seasons, which is, by the way, backup money. And then Will Howard will be their 3rd-string quarterback. And by the way, you know what? I know some teams, Craig, who had a 4th-round grade on this player. They could develop him, bring him along slowly, see what he's got next year. But Rodgers will be the guy. And look, I know he's older now, well into his 40s. If they make the playoffs and they play well, he could either choose to retire, go out the right way, or continue to play and see what they could build on that.
All right. Well, Adam, we will see what happens with the entire National Football League. We are closing in on I think probably my least favorite time of the year, which is the preseason. But I know my favorite time of the year for football is when training camp opens. So I can do well with these training camps, but I hate the NFL preseason. Once it starts, I can't wait for it to end. We'll check in with you next week. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Adam Caplan, our SportsGrid insider, joining us here on the show. All right, coming up next, the very latest on sports betting in Louisiana. We'll be joined by Pat Evans of Legal Sports Report. And then Tom Vecchio joins us. We'll talk some baseball here in the house as well. You're watching NewsWire on a Monday morning, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
It'll be interesting to see what the Knicks do, but the Knicks are at a point now where they don't have to blow it up. They may still do so, and they have a right to do so, but with trading the 4 first-round picks and the pick swap for Mikal Bridges, the Knicks don't have a lot of room in regards to actual picks to throw at people.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Knicks really got past that playoff dragon for them that really stood in their way. So for the New York Knicks to be the Celtics and then an outright favorite to win the Eastern Conference Finals, that's where the disappointment is.
The goalposts got moved, right? Because when you went into the Celtics series, a lot of Knicks fans said they weren't going to be this. I'll say this is more unprecedented than the 99 run when they were the 8 seed.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Face. It's the new face. New face of what? The hell are you talking about? Like seriously. Oh, the new face of the NBA, Anthony. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, really? Guy's got 2 shots. You're the face of the NBA. Slow down. He's a good player. I've always thought the whole face of the NBA thing was comical. You want him to be the face of the NBA because you don't like it that all the other faces of the NBA aren't American.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. All the discussion that we spend on Georgia and Minnesota and all these other states potentially legalizing sports betting, even Hawaii we dove into earlier in the spring. But here we are in the summer, and we got another hot topic. Let's bring in Pat Evans to discuss it here on the show. Pat, I was looking this morning at some of the things we're going to talk about, and I was like, wait a second here. We are going to potentially legalize sports betting in Rhode Island? I don't. Have you and I even said the state Rhode Island on this show in our history of doing this?
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I mean, so sports betting already is legal in Rhode Island. It has been since 2018, but it's a very unique market in that it's one of the few states that has a monopoly through the lottery that is then run by IGT. So it's Sportsbook Rhode Island is the name of it. And apparently, the regulators and the lawmakers aren't super pleased with the performance, which you do end up seeing a lot in these states that have the monopolies, whether it's Oregon and their DraftKings or Montana or New Hampshire. And so the lawmakers have come out and they're kind of listening to a report that was published last year by the Rhode Island Lottery by Spectrum Gaming that said, hey, can we open up the market to more people? I think the market will perform better. That'll bring more tax revenue to the state, even though right now Rhode Island has an effective tax rate through that monopoly of 51%. The per capita bet amounts and the things like that aren't super high. So it's not bringing in that much money ultimately. And, Rhode Island is a very tiny state population wise, so that might have something to do with it as well. But this bill passed the Senate last week that would open it up to between 2 and 5 more sportsbook operators, more than just the one. And so you'd have to imagine that, it'll kind of look like Massachusetts and have, the big players, DraftKings, FanDuel for sure, just coming to the state. Now that, of course, will probably have to bring down that tax rate. It wouldn't be that high for these commercial operators as it stands right now, but you have to imagine they might bring it down a little bit more to make it more attractive to them. But yeah, just kind of an interesting thing because, we don't talk about Rhode Island because, one, it's been legal for so long as just that monopoly, one operator state, and 2, it's just not a big mover in terms of revenue and because of the population size. So yeah, we don't talk about it much, but it looks like this could be happening. It passed the Senate by a 30-2 vote. We'll of course have to see what happens in the House, but just judging by the feel of the Senate and how that happened, you have to imagine it'll get through probably pretty easily.
I think that would be fascinating considering, as you said, Rhode Island hasn't opened it up to FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and some others. Small state, but still an opportunity there. Okay, so let's go to Canada. Some new sports betting framework reintroduced there. Canada constantly, moving those goalposts around, changing their ideas for for different sports books that are allowed. And I know you're following it over at LSR.
Yeah, so I mean, we have to go back to 2021 when Canada changed their rules to allow for single event sports wagering. Of course, parlay bets were allowed through the lottery in the different provinces before that, but that opened it up so the lotteries could all offer single event sports wagering. Then that moved to Ontario, opening up their commercial market, and now they're one of the most robust and probably pretty successful in terms of revenue wise sports betting and iGaming markets in North America. That will now move on to Alberta as well, who is basing it on their Ontario on the Ontario framework. Now, what's interesting is 2 years ago, or it might have been last year, I can't quite recall, but Senator Marty Deacon introduced a framework for a national advertising, rules for sports betting in Canada because they heard a lot from constituents and the like saying, hey, this is too much ads. We're seeing too many ads. This isn't okay. And this is something, of course, we've seen in markets across North America as, you get people a little upset. Even people who do like sports wagering can get a little overwhelmed by some of the ads during games and things like that. So we saw it move through the Senate. It was going to the other side of the parliament. However, the way things work up in Canada, as soon as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said was resigning and they had to hold a new national election, that kind of restarted the process. So now Deacon had to reintroduce that framework, and we'll see if it can kind of gain the same momentum it did before. And what's interesting is it would set up a framework, and they would kind of put together it with the Canadian Gaming Association and the TV broadcasters and the like, who are already doing that on their own. But then you also see people coming out against it. You see the NHL and NFL have said, hey, can we not do this? That's a little bit much. You've seen the statistics already that were presented in the hearings that said, hey, the ads are way down from 2022 to now. I think they've been almost quartered when you look at how many ads have been run this past year versus 2 years ago. And so it's interesting that this is already kind of tapering off up there. And then you also have to take into account that Ontario has some of the strictest advertising rules already in terms of sports betting. You can't give out promos without customers opting in. You can't have it, in that first year, we saw tons of operators get fined because they were putting advertising and adverts of those promos in, transit stops and things like that. We also saw them come back and revise their sports betting rules to say, hey, you can't use athletes, retired or current. So that's, they had Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid in early ads, and they disallowed that. They also said you can't use celebrities. And so there's already very strict rules in Ontario, the only open market. And so it'll be interesting to see if this framework, which, again, the Canadian Gaming Association and the Association of Broadcasters have said, like, whether or not this passes, we're developing something and we will stick to it. So, I don't think this has to be something the federal government has to be involved in. But nonetheless, Marty Deacon reintroduced it, even though it passed the Senate last year and then fell apart after Justin Trudeau stepped down and there was a new national election.
Let's close it out with Louisiana here. States finding different ways to raise taxes on sports betting. And, Louisiana is one of those states that's, dominated by college football, college basketball. As you know, Pat, LSU, Tulane, a lot of colleges there need some extra money for those NIL deals. It feels like that's the direction this is headed.
Yeah, so this passed yesterday by the Senate. It's a House bill that initially, when it was introduced in the House, would have doubled the tax rate from more than doubled, actually, from 15% up to 32%. They brought that down in the House during the initial discussions down to 21.5%. And then the Senate, they passed it. And then the Senate passed it yesterday. So it is moving from 15% up to 21.5%, which ultimately, isn't as drastic as that doubling of the tax, but it still will bring in an extra 6.5 million or so a year in tax revenue to Louisiana, which, to your point, in the bill also includes a 25% allocation to the Division I athletic departments in the state. So yeah, I don't know how much of that will be toward, helping out NILs or just making sure the facilities are nice and things like that. But not totally surprised that it happened. Louisiana lawmakers have been very active in gambling issues this year. They just last week, I think we talked about on the show, they passed a sweepstakes casino ban, one of 4 states to have done that so far this session. They also sort of talked about online casino as we headed into the session. So, I think that Louisiana might be one of the states to kind of keep an eye on as we move forward in that discussion in future sessions. But yeah, to your point, lawmakers across the country are looking at sports betting as a way to further increase their tax revenues. We saw the proposal in Ohio that didn't make it, but then we've seen the 5% increase in Maryland that was signed in the budget. And then, of course, recently, Illinois introducing that kind of bonkers per bet wager, 25%, right. 25. Yeah. So I had 25 cents per bet. It's a pretty crazy bet, but yeah, interesting ways the lawmakers are looking at increasing taxes through sports betting.
Can you imagine if they made it 25%?
That would have been, yeah. What a misspeak by me there.
Yeah, a quarter a bet. Remember the old days? You put the quarter in the machine and you get to play. That's the deal. All right, Pat. Great to catch up with you. Some games were 50 cents, by the way. That's when I drew the line. True. 80s, Pat. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Craig.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by Tom Vecchio of SportsGrid.
It'll be interesting to see what the Knicks do, but the Knicks are at a point now where they don't have to blow it up. They may still do so, and they have a right to do so, but with trading the 4 first-round picks and the pick swap for Mikal Bridges, the Knicks don't have a lot of room in regards to actual picks to throw at people.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Knicks really got past that playoff dragon for them that really stood in their way. So for the New York Knicks to be the Celtics and then an outright favorite to win the Eastern Conference Finals, that's where the disappointment is.
The goalpost got moved, right? Because when you went into the Celtics series, a lot of Knicks fans said they weren't going to beat it. I'll say this is more unprecedented than the 99 run when they were the 8th seed.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Face. It's the new face. New face of what? The hell are you talking about? Like seriously. Oh, the new face of the NBA, Anthony. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, really? Guy's got 2 shots. You're the face of the NBA. Slow down. He's a good player. I've always thought the whole face of the NBA thing was comical. You want him to be the face of the NBA because you don't like it that all the other faces in the NBA aren't American.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Tom Vecchio, you can catch him every Sunday on Pro Baseball Today at 10 a.m. Eastern, getting ready for the Sunday slate and everything that's happening in Major League Baseball. Let's bring Tom in to review some of what happened this weekend, take a look at some updated odds, and then preview the handful of games tonight. Tom, great to have you back here on NewsWire. I know it's been a while, and it's been a while since the Pirates looked this good against anybody. Maybe it's been a year, honestly, Tom. They sweep the Phillies. What in the world happened here? Phillies have lost 9 out of 10. Padres are playing okay again. They beat the Brewers. Tigers just keep on rolling here. So let's start here with the Phillies because, honestly, the Pirates are going nowhere. Tom, I think most people would tell you that every team over the course of the season is going to lose 9 out of 10. So the question is that just Philly slumping for the moment, or do you think there's any more to this?
Ultimately, I think this is just like I want to say it's a flash in the pan for Philly just based on how good they are overall. They certainly are struggling, and whether a team is going to be struggling in the short term or the long term, that's yet to be determined. But there are some issues with their bullpen. There's some issues with their lineup, obviously, with Harper now being out. The bottom 3-4 hitters in their lineup, I would say are pretty easy outs when it's all said and done for opposing pitchers. And when you have that piece missing out of your lineup, and we've seen some struggles from, Alec Bohm start the season like he wasn't the same hitter that he was. Like it makes the lineup a little bit weaker overall. And then when you have a bullpen that you simply cannot trust to hold leads, I think this is a start of a long-term concern for Philly unless they rectify things leading into the trade deadline. And where they sit in terms of the NL overall, I see a very, very tough path for them to even make it out of the first or second round.
I think that's kind of the deal here, but their total is 92.5, and 2-1 to win the East. I agree with you. I don't really love that. I mean, if I was going to throw a dart here, Tom, I would do it on the pennant just if they got hot at the right time. Hard to see them winning the World Series with LA in their way.
Right. And the way I would actually played is if you look to the NLCS direct outcome, like if you think they can win the NL, like they're probably beating the Dodgers. So I would look to Philly to beat the Dodgers direct outcome. If you want to play like, they get hot, as they always do in like August, September, right. I would look to that rather than just the specific odds because, listen, a hot series by the Cubs, they could take down the Dodgers, and you could play it multiple ways. So a little piece of just the straight pennant overall, or a direct series outcome.
Cubs and Phillies play tonight. I don't know how you feel about the narrative of the paternity list, Tom, because we got that going here with Zach Wheeler, who is a father. I don't even know if this is his second, third, first kid. I have no idea. Maybe you do. They're minus 152 tonight. Wheeler's been fantastic. Matthew Boyd has been a huge surprise. I mean, Imanaga went down, and it's like, okay, we'll just turn to Matthew Boyd. He's been maybe as good as Imanaga could be. Any lean on this game tonight?
It's tough to trust the Phillies, right? It really is. And I don't want to be laying juice on them overall, especially when I just mentioned they have concerns about the bullpen. So I actually like Philly first 5 just because, hey, we're just going to trust Wheeler. He gets it done. He's the pitch, like he's their ace pitcher. He's one of the top candidates for NL Cy Young. But the fact that we're getting plus money with the lineup as good as the Cubs are, combined with the Philly struggles in the bullpen, I think there's theoretically a way to play Philly first 5 but also still have the Cubs money line because we are getting plus money. But if I had to choose one, I'd be like, listen, Wheeler, we need you to right the ship. You have to be our guy. Get out there, give us 5, 6 strong, and whatever happens after that happens. But you cash your bet in the first 5.
Now, as far as the NL Cy Young is concerned, I mean, I don't think it's open and shut with anybody in June, but Skeens is such a significant favorite at this point. He's minus 185. Yamamoto, Tom, at 5-1. Wheeler's 10-1. Webb is super underrated. I mean, for some reason, it's like if his name was anywhere else or playing anywhere else, he probably would be where Wheeler is. And I think it's long shots from there on out. Do you think anybody outside of Skeens has a shot? Obviously, I'm not rooting for anyone to get hurt. It just seems like too early to crown any Cy Young in June.
It really is. We've talked about Webb before. I think he's awesome. His strikeout rate is up this year. He's like the model of consistency when it comes to pitchers. The innings are always there. The wins are always there, which I know aren't super important. And that obviously relates to Paul Skeens, where Skeens is never going to have the wins. We might as well call him Paul DeGrom Skeens because it reminds me of what DeGrom did however many years ago with the Mets. We're like, listen, they are just simply not winning games, but his stats are unbelievable. So I think Skeens is in position to win it if things continue, but seeing Webb up there at 15-1 with how good he has been, his stats are improving. Yeah, there's somewhat of a ballpark factor that certainly aids him when it's all said and done. But when we're getting a high volume of innings and wins and his ERA is at least comparable to Skeens, he's interesting to me.
Now, as far as tonight's game is concerned with the Dodgers and Padres, this is always very highly contested, as you know. And it's basically a coin flip on FanDuel. I'm seeing the Dodgers as slight road favorites here with a total of 8. Dustin May starts for LA. It's Nick Pivetta, who's been great for the Padres. Seems like the Padres have finally corrected some of the issues they've been having. But quite frankly, I don't know how this gets to 8, Tom. They're just not scoring a lot of runs.
Yeah, so when it comes to this game overall, first of all, it's interesting that this is the first time that they've played each other, and it's June. Like, 2 division rivals have yet to play each other. They're so close in the standings. I want to lean under. Like, again, I think the under would be the right side. As you said, there just shouldn't be too many runs overall. And we've seen, what was it, the league lead for the Padres now when it comes to total shutouts, just because their bullpen is awesome. They get good consistency out of their starting line, their starting rotation, which I would say is a bit of a surprise for me when we've seen a little bit of inconsistency from Cease. Kolek has been awesome for them. So I like the under from this game, despite the power that you think you have with Ohtani, and Machado is having an awesome season. Obviously, Tatis at the top of the lineup. I'm not sure how often we'll be scoring runs, just not only tonight, but throughout the entire series. And I'm also inclined to take the Padres. Give me the plus money. If this series bounces back and forth, I'll simply take the plus money wherever we can get it.
Agreed. Tom, great to catch up with you here on NewsWire. I'll see you again soon as we get ready for the big games in baseball tonight. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Tom Vecchio, you can catch him every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on Pro Baseball Today. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back, we'll go through some of the hot topics in the NBA Finals, including a former coach in the NBA who's seemingly saluting a player that used to play in the city that he used to coach. More on that in just a minute. You can download the SportsGrid app. It's available right now for iOS and Android. Just take out your phone and scan this QR code, and you're all set to go streaming our network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is new, it is updated, and live all day and all night long, including getting you ready for tonight's game in the Stanley Cup Finals between the Panthers and Edmonton Oilers. We'll be back as we wrap up the show with some last licks here on NewsWire, so stay on SportsGrid. After these quick messages, we'll be right back.
It'll be interesting to see what the Knicks do, but the Knicks are at a point now where they don't have to blow it up. They may still do so, and they have a right to do so, but with trading the 4 first-round picks and the pick swap for Mikal Bridges, the Knicks don't have a lot of room in regards to actual picks to throw at people.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you can't really, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Knicks really got past that playoff dragon for them that really stood in their way. So for the New York Knicks to be the Celtics and then an outright favorite to win the Eastern Conference Finals, that's where the disappointment is.
The goalposts got moved, right? Because when you went into the Celtics series, a lot of Knicks fans said they weren't going to beat it. I'll say this is more unprecedented than the 99 run when they were the 8th seed.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Face. It's the new face. New face of what? The hell are you talking about? Like seriously. Oh, the new face of the NBA, Anthony. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, really? Guy's got 2 shots. You're the face of the NBA. Slow down. He's a good player. I've always thought the whole face of the NBA thing was comical. You want him to be the face of the NBA because you don't like it that all the other faces in the NBA aren't American.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Time to dive into the latest in the NBA. A couple of topics to get to. A name I haven't heard in a while, by the way, pops up here. Also, Adam Sandler, ahead of Happy Gilmore 2, makes a promise to an NFL player based on results. Sounds a little strange, but true. Time now for some last licks. Okay, there is like this unending criticism about the broadcast of the NBA Finals. I don't know if you guys have caught this, but if you're on social media, like I am, I mean, I'm not on a lot, by the way, but every time I'm on there, I'm seeing people complaining about the broadcast, about the court. And last night it happened again in Oklahoma City, basically unable to see the logo on the court in the NBA Finals. You can't make this stuff up. Hard to see the Larry O'Brien trophy also. I suppose this just goes back in previous history when they played in the NBA Finals and they played the championship. It was just so glorious and everything was decked out. And I guess they're just feeling like it's being a little bit overshadowed on the court in Oklahoma City for the Thunder. Now, we'll see if they get this corrected for the next game. But for those of you who are on social media and you want to take a look at it, it's really easy to do. Just search it out and you certainly will find it. Needless to say, probably important to have the NBA's logo somewhere on the court that you can see. And I'm sure, by the way, it's there, but it's just hard to see on TV. Now, this was something that really caught me off guard. I got to be honest, okay? So Don Nelson, Hall of Fame coach in the National Basketball Association, probably most associated, I think he coached the Knicks, if I'm not mistaken, but most associated with the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. Fair to say? Okay. Right now, Don Nelson, out of nowhere, by the way, wearing sneakers that show his objection to his former team, if you're following along, in the Dallas Mavericks trading Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. Did Don Nelson coach the Lakers, Frank, too? I think he may have coached the Lakers. He coached like everybody in the NBA. I know it was the Mavericks. I know it was the Warriors. I think it was the Knicks, too, that he coached. And I think he may have coached the Lakers, too. Either way, Don Nelson is one of these sort of guys who has disappeared. Okay, good thing he didn't coach the Lakers, but he sort of disappeared from the NBA. I believe he lives in the mountains or something like that. I don't know. Definitely a different guy. Great coach in his day. Very upset, clearly, that Luka was traded. But in the end, we'll see how this all plays out. I know the trade still looks bad on paper, but I don't know. Something tells me that Mavericks are going to be okay here because they got the #1 overall pick in the draft. So something tells me Cooper Flagg takes them back to where they were. Okay, so coming out next month on Netflix is a movie called Happy Gilmore 2. For a lot of you who are streaming the show, it's possible that you just simply didn't see Happy Gilmore. It was a long time ago. I mean, it just was. This is the truth. A lot of people feel like this is Adam Sandler's best movie. Only going to be streaming next month. All the media is starting to come out for it. Comes out in July. So Adam Sandler appeared on the Dan Patrick Show, which is both simulcast on TV and radio. And Derrick Henry, the running back in the NFL, is a huge Adam Sandler fan. Sandler promised for this upcoming season that if Derrick Henry rushes for 2,000 yards, he gets to be in an Adam Sandler movie. Now, it doesn't mean it's Happy Gilmore 3 or anything like that. It just means that he gets to appear in one of his flicks. You know, I think that's going to be hard for Derrick Henry to do. But why did Sandler set the line so high here? Couldn't have been 1,800, 1,700, something like that. Feels a little too high. I mean, Derrick Henry's one of the oldest running backs in the NFL. Now, I know he was fantastic last year. You can make a case he was in the conversation to win the MVP. Can't just put him in a movie just for being Derrick Henry. There's a lot of other celebs that are in that movie, by the way. A lot of cameos coming for that movie, Happy Gilmore 2. Again, something we'll talk about as we get closer to the actual movie coming out. All right, that'll do it for the show. We had an action-packed program here today. A lot of fun guests here. We had Tom Vecchio on the show, also Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report, Coach Young on the show as well. Sure, we're going to be talking some hockey coming up because tonight is Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So after Smiley is off the air here, he comes on at 12 talking some golf with you and recap the Wild tournament this weekend in Canada. We've got Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern. So he'll give you the very latest and have a preview of all of the Major League Baseball action, but predominantly it is NHL tonight. That's followed by Front Office Sports today and then Game Time Decisions. We also have in-game live game day, and then no doubt Gabe will have it covered for you tonight. The huge matchup between Edmonton and Florida. The big question going into tonight's game in Sunrise. We've already seen back-to-back overtime games. Games 1 and 2 in Edmonton. Could we be headed for a third straight? Already breaking the records. Never happened in game 1 and 2. I think so. I think we're headed for another overtime game tonight. Thanks again to Luke. And for Frank, I'm Craig. Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you back here for our next edition of NewsWire tomorrow.